Okay, this is the DI Process complimentary webinar on Zoom. Today is Tuesday, June 12th, and I'm Dave, and the instructor is Dr. Jayne.
Good. Welcome, everybody. I know that many of the people that answered some of my research questions and worked with Chandra, my research development person. I just wanted to thank you all. Some of you are on there right now, and some of you want this recording. So I wanted to start with saying that I just appreciate your giving your time for this research study, and we will be giving you the results of that in a few months after we've kind of looked at it and decided exactly what it all means. But we offered you this complimentary webinar today to explain more kind of about what we're doing and the project we have going, and even how you can participate if you wish. So first thing I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to wait and do a coaching demo. I had a volunteer, Melissa's on the line to volunteer, but I'm going to do that at the end. So first, I want to start with a story, and then I'll tell you some information about the Institute, and then I'll do the coaching video. So all in all, I don't think we'll be on together more than 45 minutes, but you can kind of allow for that much time. So sit back and just listen for a minute, because I'd like to tell you a story about, I've heard the story before, but I didn't realize it was a true story. So back in the 13th century, there was a group of people in Thailand that built a Buddha made of 18-karat gold. It is 9 feet tall. So if you can imagine, it was like, I think they say it's like 5 tons of gold worth, if you could put a value in dollars on it, it would be worth more than 250 million. So here's this priceless statue sitting there in the 13th century. And the people, the monks that were protecting it at their temple, it was all they had. And they, of course, didn't even know the value of it at the time, but they heard about some invaders coming. And so they decided, what can we do to protect it? Because they knew these invaders would plunder and had probably heard about the statue and were trying to take it. So what they decided to do is they created this kind of a stucco kind of cement, and they decided to cover it up with clay mixed with some chips of glass, and then they decided that that would hide the value of it, and it did. And the invaders saw it, thought it was valueless, and a couple of them stayed. The monks that were there could not really talk about the value of it, because they knew that there were still some of these plunders in the town. So they began over the generations to forget of its value. And so in 1957, there was a place in Thailand where this statue ended up, and they were actually moving it at the time because they didn't see the value of it either, since it looked like just solid cement. And they were moving it to a less important place in the temple, to another temple, in fact. And somehow the hoisting it, they dropped it. And when they dropped it, some of the cement cracked, and they could see inside a little bit, and they noticed that there was a golden light coming out of the crack. And of course, as the story goes, they began to get out their chisels and began to chisel away at the debris, the cement, hiding this golden Buddha, and soon discovered its value and reside. So they built this huge temple just to honor it. Well, of course, as you can imagine, I'm going to use this as a metaphor for what our company does, because we've invented a process that actually helps you uncover the gold, the light within you. And it's a similar process where you have to chip off all of the debris in order to see who you really are. So we'll use that as a metaphor to talk about our process and what it actually does. I'll talk a minute about me. I'm Dr. Jayne Gardner, and my credentials are I have a PhD in counseling, and over the years, I have worked about 38 years with clients, and I see clients every day and help them chip off the debris to find that golden light within themselves. But I started out working in a psychiatric facility before I really did my coaching practice. I was working with very seriously ill people, and I kept getting discouraged because nobody seemed to get any better. And I forgot to remind you, we can hear some background noise, and if you check your mute button, and if everybody will just mute for the moment, it will cover up that background noise. I forgot to tell you. Then if you have a question, unmute, feel free to ask me. But I was working in a psychiatric facility and just began to get discouraged. And I sought out an answer to that. I found that what I was doing with people, giving them meds and trying to help them get better, wasn't working. They'd come back. And so the recidivism was high. So what I found about that time was a different model to work with. Instead of a medical model that said people are broken and we have to fix them, and we even diagnosed them with the medical model as what is wrong with them. About that time, a new profession emerged called coaching. And in coaching, and this is really the difference between coaching and counseling or a medical model, is that coaches feel like we're whole and complete, and that all we have to do to find our true self or our unlimited potential is, in a sense, chip off the mud and the debris that's covering us up. So I became a master certified coach in 2003. And since then, I created a process. And this is the essence of our company, the Divine Intelligence Process. And it's a way for people to find their authentic self. So I own the Divine Intelligence Institute. We're ICF accredited. And not only do we provide this process to people, we also train spiritual coaches who want to help people find themselves and find answers to their life. Here's a book I wrote, Divine Intelligence. I know some of you have already read it, and that's why you contacted me. There are 2 books out. This is the 2nd edition, which came out last year. So check and make sure if you order one that it is the 2nd edition. And I will offer, if you're listening or if you're on this and you want a copy of that, send me your address and I will send you a free copy. I feel pretty sure that most of you already have one, but if you don't, I would love to have you read it. So let's talk about what is divine intelligence. And it's pretty simple. It's your unlimited creative potential. So how well can you create using your mind and your heart? And our divine intelligence process teaches you how to uncover that divine intelligence within you and how to manifest and create the life you want. What we know about spiritual growth, because the process really, that's the end result of spiritual growth. So we know that all spiritual growth, 100% of it, is about releasing or eliminating rather than attaining something. Because like the Golden Buddha, we are already priceless and we already have within us all we need. We have to just eliminate or release what's covering us up. Our institute is not a religious institute. We are spiritually in nature, and we honor all paths to a higher self. Or we honor atheists, we honor Buddhists, we honor Christians, anyone that is willing to accept everyone and has no judgment about how you find this higher power. We call it the divine. So one of the things we do in the process is I've underlaid the process with what you do, the steps, with the science research that I found that supports it. So what I've really realized is science and spirituality are saying the same thing. But science has actually been behind spirituality a little bit, but it's catching up. And so the research that I present to you in this process is something that helps your brain get past this feeling that spirituality is some woo-woo thing that has no real credulence or grounding. So what science says about the divine, what spirituality calls the divine, is that the divine is a field of light energy. And we've discovered that in the past, say, 20 years. So we use quantum physics to help you awaken to that divine within you. We know that quantum physics tells us that there is a field of energy, and it's everywhere. We used to think space, just empty space out there, was just empty. And now the quantum physicists have told us that actually every bit of empty space is teeming with energy, and energy that we can access as through our minds and hearts to create what we want. You can read more about all of this in my book. I'm just kind of taking the summary of what's there. But what the scientists have found out is that not only is the space out there unlimited in energy, unlimited in knowledge, and unlimited in time and space, that's why we can compare it to the divine, isn't it? Because we've always used those 3 O's to talk about the divine: omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. So what we're beginning to see is that we're superhuman. Now, this brings up lots of resistance to say, well, how do you do this? But basically what we've learned that if we could match this field's energy, we could create anything we want. And David Bohm, a physicist back in the 60s and 70s, proved that not only is the universe all of these unlimited energy, knowledge, and time and space, but since the universe is a hologram, every piece of the universe has that same amount of unlimitedness in it. And we are, in a sense, a piece of that. So if you think of the whole universe, where you could compare us to a light or a star shining out there, and we haven't developed all of this potential yet. That's our divine intelligence. But that's the purpose of what I've developed in this course, is how do we get to our unlimitedness? And what we've discovered is that there is a light in us that communicates with this field, and whatever we shine out into that light is what we create and what we are. We just aren't always conscious of it, are we? So again, through the years, as we've grown up and been told different things, we have covered ourselves up with layers of limiting beliefs or of mud that covers up that divinity inside of us. What we know from science is that the brain at birth is totally unlimited. It's just, it isn't totally formed at birth. It's a bunch of neurons out there that are ready to be connected, over 100 million billion neurons. That's our unlimitedness, because when you connect those, you see what our unlimited potential is. So scientists call that spiritual potential ipseity. They say that when we're born, we are in ipseity. We are unlimited, we're pure, we're perfect, and we have the potential to be anything we want to be. But what happens is, of course, we lose that through the influences of different major influencers in our life. It can be our family, our parents, our church, our school. Mostly it comes from our parents, because in the Western way of, I guess, parenting, it can be very abusive. We're always trying to correct the child to make it perfect. And of course, we know now that we're born perfect, but we haven't yet used different or learned different parenting methods. We just still use a lot of abusive things to correct and influence and try to, we have a good intent of trying to keep the child safe, but many times we damage that children by saying things like, well, boys shouldn't cry or girls shouldn't get angry. And we learn that all. And again, we begin to be covered up with layers and layers of limiting beliefs. This is one thing that we do in the class, the process that you take as a student. We do something called vertical integration. And if you look at this picture, this is a breakdown, a simplification of the brain, where we have the cognitive brain is number 3, the limbic or feeling brain is number 2, and then the 1 represents the visceral brain, or the brain that controls your physical body. And what we've learned in science is that emotions located in the limbic area are also located in every cell of our body. But when we store up emotions are actually more powerful, according to neuroscientists, than thoughts. So we get imbalanced. So in this course, in this process, we learn to integrate thinking and feeling. That's one of the ways we change the cells in your body when you take the course. You know, we've been conditioned to believe we have no power, that something outside of us has power, that there is a divine person sitting up in the sky ruling us, when really the power is within us. And we have learned that unresolved emotions will cover up and just hide this power. And we know that our emotions, when we learn how to use them, turn the atoms on and off. One of the important parts of the course is learning the power of emotions. And Dr. David Hawkins created an emotional scale and proved that different emotions have different powers. The lower emotions, the negative ones, actually have less power than love and empowerment and what you see in the purple. But what we learn to do in this process is we learn to move you. If you are down in the bottom red and gray, we teach you how to move yourself up to the top, where you become more empowered with positive emotions and you learn to shift. We teach you tools to shift out of the lower emotions, which are powerlessness, and how to raise your, what we call your emotional light frequency. And we don't focus totally on the brain. We focus a lot on the integration, like I said, of feelings and thinking, because our heart, we know, is an electromagnetic field, and it's actually a field that's 5,000 times more powerful than the brain's electromagnetic field. So emotions, as I've said earlier, are more powerful. And so we use our emotions to talk to the 0-point field. And you'll learn how to do that in the class. The energy that we use to create in the field is actually our emotions, and that's what you'll learn to do in the class. We learn that buried emotions never die, that they make us sick, they hurt our relationships, because when we're holding on to those emotions, we may pop off and be triggered by people we love. And it also inhibits our wealth and our ability to have enough energy to be prosperous and attract money to us, because money is energy. So I've kind of just given you the tip of the iceberg about what we do in the process. And the tip of the iceberg also relates to, we're only conscious in our brain of about 5% of what we're thinking. The rest of our thinking is unconscious. So what we do in the process is we help you become more conscious of what's underneath there that might be holding you back in the form of limiting beliefs. Yeah, we help you change your self-talk. So I've asked a volunteer, Melissa, to come, and what I'd like to do in the next few minutes is demonstrate actually how this works. And Melissa has volunteered. And so the only thing I asked her to do was to have a goal, because when you come to this process and take this class with us, you come with a goal of something you want to achieve that you know you've wanted for a long time, maybe you feel stuck about. You can't get there. And that's the reason people come to the class. They, just like they had to drop the Buddha and to get it to crack open to see the gold within, sometimes we have to have a crisis. And that's usually how people approach this class, is they've had something happen to them that they want to prevent happening again. It could be bankruptcy. It could be, a divorce or a major illness or a death of someone. But it's usually how people come into the process is from a crisis that they want to learn from and get past and to grow spiritually from. So if everybody will mute, and then I'll ask Melissa to unmute, and I'll coach Melissa for just a minute. Are you there, Melissa?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Thank you again for volunteering.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I hope that you benefit. So tell me what results you're looking for in your life right now.
So what I wanted to be coached on is, I think, my relationship with money. I am in the process of building a business. I am in the process of creating a rental unit where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really in the building phases of some things.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been living off my savings for a little while, and getting to the point where I'm going to be starting to make money. But I'm having a little bit of doubts.
Creep in. Mm.
So so that's what I'm doing. And I've heard of people talk about your relationship with money, and I have been able to successfully make money in my life, and save money and be responsible with money. But it's always been by doing a job I don't particularly care for. So I'm wanting to do something different now.
And you want to make money. It's something you love to do, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. What would make this time with me successful? What are you looking for?
I would feel benefited if I just felt confident that I am going to be successful. There have been a couple of nights where I woke up in the middle of the night and panicked about, oh my gosh, what if all the things that I'm working on don't work? And
yeah, that's a scary feeling, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
Anxiety. Yeah, I get it. Okay. Well, if you had to put a number on your confidence level right now, say 10 is very confident, fully confident, and 0 is not confident at all, how confident are you right now? Or let's say, as an average in your life.
Yeah. So I want to say today is a particularly lower day. So I would be maybe at a 3-4 today.
That's honest. Yeah. Okay. All right. So then at the end of the call, if we could get you to a higher number, would that satisfy what you want out of this call?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And I assume you'd like to see how you also maintain that number.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's talk for a minute, because you said something really curious earlier. You said you'd actually been successful in making money, just not in the career you wanted to be making it in. So tell me a time in your life when you were successful with money.
So the last full-time job I had, where I had an employer, I was earning a regular income, and I was saving money. I worked at this place for 4.5 years, and I saved a little bit at a time. I paid off my credit cards, and the more money I saved, the more it seemed to come in. And and I was able to leave that job with like 9 months of income saved.
Well, how did you do it? That's incredible, because a lot of people can make money, but it's a rare person that can actually keep it. So how did you keep it? What's your secret?
Well, I actually listened to an audio program on managing your finances. I've always been good with money, as far as not spending it frivolously, and making sure that the bills are paid before I go and waste it on something. But it was just a matter of allocating my money in specific ways.
Yeah. So I'm just still being curious here, but what is it that you learned? How did you learn to not be frivolous with money? I mean, that's pretty big right there. So what is it that taught you that, or did you just know it?
I think I'm not sure. I know that I always liked having money. So I've always been a hard worker. So it was easy for me to work my way up the chain in jobs to get higher paying positions. And I just like the feeling of security and having the nest egg and the freedom that I feel when I have it. So it's really I've never been a shopper. I appreciate the cushion of money in the bank more than I appreciate a nice pair of shoes.
Nice. Well, so some of your strengths then are you work hard. What's another strength that allows you to keep it?
So I work hard. Another strength that allows me to keep my money is I am frugal.
Yeah, that's the word I was thinking of too. And you have pretty sound judgment. Well, the other thing you have is self-control.
Yes.
I mean, that's huge. It's the mastery of overcoming temptations of things out there, and the knowing that what really makes you happy is the security inside, that the money setting there that gives you that security that you don't have to worry so much about paying your bills and everything.
And it's occurring to me now, one thing that allowed me to save up that money was I had a goal in mind of how much I wanted to save, and I put it on my whiteboard in my office. And every time like maybe weekly or so, or whenever I put a significant chunk of money in there, I would write it on the board so it was right in front of me to just kind of encourage me.
Oh, that's good. So you're a learner. You once you see it like that written down, it's important because that's what keeps you building and being under self-control, because you're wanting to get to that goal.
Right. And it also, every time I go in there and I get to erase the old number and put the new number, I get that motivation that I'm making progress.
It's pretty powerful, isn't it, to see what you've done or what you've created, really, is what you're saying. You
Yeah.
learn to manifest that way. Cool. Well, okay. So, in order to raise your confidence level, um, go with me a place. Let's see if we can uncover any limiting beliefs you have about money that may have been like told you or instilled in you that you just accepted without even being conscious that they're there. So tell me any kind of a memory you have. Maybe what's your earliest memory about money as a kid?
Hmm. Um, so one that's sticking out is a negative memory. I was on a trip with my family, and I was it was like a vacation, and we were on a road trip. And my dad and mom were talking about something, and I'm not sure how old I was, maybe 6 or 7. And I remember telling my dad that I was hungry, and he started complaining that he was, oh, now we're going to have to pull over and spend more money on food, to like get a cheeseburger or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's one. And I remember feeling guilty about being hungry and making him have to spend money, even though he was going to have to spend the money anyway, because we
Yeah,
all had to eat at some point.
exactly. Okay. So, we know from neuroscience that when you remember something like that, the only reason we remember something is if there's an emotion to it. And you said there was guilt. Tell me a little bit more about feeling guilty at that point in your life.
Uh, I felt like a sinking feeling in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I regretted saying anything,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of felt like I was a burden.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's look at because is that sinking feeling in your stomach somewhat like the anxiety you wake up with when you're a little fearful about this new business?
They might be related. I think the fearfulness that I feel is
Mm-hmm.
a little more hypersensitive, like
Mm-hmm.
more energized.
Uh-huh. Than just what you were feeling as a kid.
Right.
Okay. So, what did you learn from that incident where your dad said, you're, in a sense, he inferred you were a burden and he didn't want to stop? What did you learn about money? What was the belief you learned?
Um, oh, well, so I guess I learned that um, I want to say maybe that he wanted to hold on to it, that
Mm-hmm.
you can't
Mm-hmm.
just spend it, or maybe even that it's painful to spend it.
Yeah. Was there, I was wondering about, and only you would know this, so don't let me suggest something that's not true, but did you feel like you really weren't worth spending money on?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds like whether he intended to or not, he gave you that feeling. As a kid, remember your brain at 6 or 7 isn't totally formed yet. And so we take everything literally. And so a memory from that young an age would tell me that you took it to mean that something so literal that maybe he didn't really mean, but you felt like, and it was really a feeling that you weren't even worth stopping to be fed because it was too expensive or money would have to be spent on you.
Mm-hmm.
So is any kind of feeling coming up for you with this?
I'm feeling a little guilty. I'm feeling a little bit of that guilty anxiety sort of a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
like I
Okay.
felt back then. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this kind of like I was a burden. You know, I feel
Mm-hmm.
that pit in my stomach a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if you could talk to that kid you were and talk to that part of you that felt that way today, what would you want to tell that kid, the younger you?
Um, I would tell her that um, that you're human and you did what you should have done in expressing your needs. You were hungry,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you're perfect the way you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you tell her that she is worth spending some money on?
Yeah. I mean, I would tell her that she deserves to have her needs met.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would also tell her that it's her parents' responsibility
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, to
Yeah.
provide that for her, and that they probably spoke out of stress and not um,
Yeah.
intentionally towards her.
Uh-huh. So, um, you have kids. You have a daughter.
I do. I have two.
Yeah. So, if this came up in a vacation with your daughter, asking, saying, "Hey, I'm hungry. I want to stop," what would you do?
I would. Well, I guess it really depends on how I'm feeling. If I put myself to where my dad might have been feeling at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling stressed out about money,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say, okay, we'll stop them. I'll make sure we stop in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, I'm planning on stopping in an hour. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
hold on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
I
Sure.
would plan on where we're going to go that I could
Mm-hmm.
afford.
What would you, if you knew that she was integrating that as well, if mom doesn't stop, I don't feel like I'm important, what would you tell her about that?
Um, well, I think that she would understand why I would or wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
stop.
Mm-hmm.
If
You would
she's
explain it. Mm-hmm.
sure, yes, I would
Mm-hmm.
certainly
Okay.
explain it.
Okay. So then it sounds like that there's a limiting belief here about money that may have been at least started with this little uh, incident. And so would it be fair to say it's that you're not worth spending money on at that point? If you went back to that place in your life, that's how you would feel?
Um, I think I feel like it might be more of I'm a burden.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
That's
that's
a deeper feeling, isn't it?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, just my presence is an imposition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and that would that indicate, or you would have to think about this, but at that point in your life, do you think you had low self-esteem, self-worth?
Mm, I really don't know. I know I was pretty hyper back then. Um, and I'm I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt like you didn't have high self-esteem or self-worth in this sense?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So whether it started there or not, you're not sure, but somehow you may have gotten that message growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So then let's look at changing that limiting belief that, let's say, your self-worth is lower at that point in your life, and it may still be with you, that your self-worth is lower than you would like it to be. We always say, there's a saying that says net worth is equal to your self-worth. So here you are trying to make money and have some net worth in a company, and so what might be holding you back is if you could increase your self-worth, it might make you where you would be less likely to wake up at night because you would know you deserved it.
I agree. Yes.
Okay, so if that's the limiting belief, what is a new belief you want to wire into the brain right now?
Um, directly related to worth.
Mhm.
Um, hmm.
Well, think about, what do you want your daughters to feel about their self-worth? If you were putting in a belief for them, what would you want to have them believe about their self-worth?
That they are worthy of whatever they want.
Mhm. Of wealth?
Absolutely. Of
Mhm.
anything they feel will make them happy in this
Okay.
life.
Okay. That's a good one. All right. So then, do you want to wire that one in your head? I am worthy of anything that makes me feel happy.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
And so, if you had that as a belief, do you think you'd still wake up at night?
Um, no, I don't. I think if I firmly believed that, there would be no doubt that my
Mhm.
endeavors would be successful.
Well, especially since some of the beliefs that you got that were positive in your life is that you learned how to master control over your spending, and you you have self-discipline, and you're frugal with money, which means that you're careful with money. You don't just go out. So you've already proved that to yourself. Those beliefs are solid, that you can control yourself, you're frugal. So if you could combine all those strengths with, I'm worthy of anything that makes me feel happy. Let's say you could, even if you want to put money in it, any amount of money that makes me feel happy, I'm worthy of. Then if you really believed that, um, since what we know to be true and what we know about science now, that says what our feelings are, our emotional set point is really what brings things to us from the field. The field is just a mirror of your emotional set point and what you're thinking too, your intention. But you know what your intention is. You want to make money on this company. So what I think we need to do is change your emotional set point to match how you would feel if you knew you were worthy enough to make that money, and then you would be confident to go out there and do that. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so let's figure out how we're going to get that belief in your head. What do you know about how to wire in a new belief?
Um, Affirmations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
What do you have to do when you say the affirmation? Do you know the pairing that goes there with, the statement, the intention uh, that we figured out? What do you need to pair with it as you say it?
Positive emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what positive emotion could you put in there?
Oh, I could feel joyful
Mm-hmm.
while I say it.
Yeah. And the other thing you could do is you could remember when you did have money and how it felt,
Yes.
because you've already had that experience. So you could remember the joyful way you felt when you know you had that. So that's what I'm going to challenge you to do. And of course, we know that putting in a new belief is done through repetition. And so I'm going to challenge you to say that new belief to yourself 100 times a day for like 21 days.
Okay.
Okay. Because usually when we go through this exercise, we don't really believe it yet. Would like to believe that, that you're worthy of whatever makes you feel happy, that amount of money. But you probably have that conditioned self-talk in there that says, yeah, that'd be great, but how do I do that? Or all of those things. So remember that in manifestation, the how you do it is the universe's. It's the one that has the unlimited amount of energy out there to do something. All you have to do is to match that energy, that feeling, and it will happen to you. And you'll begin to change your brain so that you draw that to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to challenge you to do that. And then let's check in about 21 days and see what's happening. And I would say when you wake up in the middle of the night is when you should really repeat that to yourself a lot.
Okay.
So it's like you're talking to that child, that felt and wondered a little bit about whether she was even worthy to have that much money or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then, given that, what's your confidence level now? You had about a 3 or 4 on being successful. How do you feel now?
Um, I want to. Maybe I'm a 5 or 6.
Because you have a plan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm really interested to see where I am in 21 days.
Yeah, me too.
I do feel
Well,
like I feel like this will really unlock something for me.
and a lot of times, the one step we're missing in the process is that sometimes you have to really get rid of any resentment or anger you have at the people that put that in your head. Uh, and try to doesn't seem to be gelling or sticking, we'll look at that emotional release you might need to do.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for volunteering. I hope you got what you wanted here, which was an increase in energy, really, wasn't it?
I did. Yes. And a plan. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
Good, great. Thanks for volunteering, Melissa. Okay, great. So what we do in the process is we help you figure out the root where those limiting beliefs come from, and we help you go back and rewire your brain to help you get out of the stuck places you're in. Because usually, if you're stuck, you are basing your life on a limiting belief that you weren't even conscious of, like the iceberg gets buried down in there. So one of the things we do in this process is we help you uncover limiting beliefs in your life. So now I just want to do a little bit of what I call shameless self-promotion, because I want to tell you what our vision is at the Divine Intelligence Institute. We want to see 15% of the world, because this is the spiritual tipping point, take our process. because what the process does is it also eliminates stored up anger in it. And so we want to eliminate any kind of limited identification you have with yourself, as well as any kind of stored up frustration or anger you may have. I think that the world will be a much better place when that many people take this process. And that we figured out the numbers. It's actually around 6.7 million people that we need to go through the process. Right now, we've taken through over 3,000. So I'm going to ask for your help. You helped me in the research, and the research I was conducting was, what do people desire and what are they looking for in spiritual growth? So the ways you can help us out still, if you're willing, is that you can become part of that 15%. You can either get the process by reading my book, Divine Intelligence. Sometimes just reading it pops up for you some of the limiting beliefs that you need to change. Or you can take the process. We offer it by webinar. I'm still teaching that course. So you could take it that way, or you can hire one of our spiritual coaches. And Melissa is one of our trained coaches. What I like about our coaches is they're always still growing, and they always want to get to the next step of their spiritual growth. So she is a professional spiritual coach that knows how to take you through this process. If you'd like to hire her, let me know and I'll get you in touch with her. Or you may someday want to train to become a spiritual coach if you want to get into that career. But these are the ways that you could help us. So I would love to have you become part of us. And I know because you helped us out with this research, we've offered you a discount of 20% off any of our products. So let us know if you're ready to step into taking the process. And if not, just hold up and become the highest person you can become. And that will be the result of the process. So again, all of you, thank you so much for telling us about your thoughts on spirituality and working with our research assistant. And I'll get back to you and tell you the results of our discoveries as soon as we can. Right now, I just have a lot of gratitude to all of you for showing up and for giving your time to my research. If I can do anything to help you, please let me know. Again, I'm Dr. Jayne, and I'm at the Divine Intelligence Institute. Have a good rest of the day, and let me know if you have any questions about this webinar or if you want to know more about us. Until then, thanks for your help again.